Hey everybody, welcome to today's live stream. We're a little bit late today, but couldn't help it. So I got for anybody that was kind of a little bit confused, I didn't have the thumbnail and everything ready until like about 3 o'clock. That's when I got things set up. So sorry about that, but I think it should be pretty fun. Today we're gonna see if these salt blanks work out. So if you didn't see last week's live stream, we did some ice melt. So if you live in a cold area where it snows and there's ice, it's those huge bags of it's basically salt, but it's a slightly different. I don't know. It's very slightly different from like table salt. So I thought we should try it out because we got ice melt for our shop. We have a. So for anybody that doesn't live in a cold area, if you have a north-facing like front door, the snow and the ice never melts because the sun that the house or the building blocks it. So unfortunately, because we got that 10 feet of snow in December, we've had like basically an ice rink in the front of our shop since December, and it still hasn't melted, even though we've had some 60-something degree days. But we have a big bag of ice melt. We tried it out, and we're gonna try and turn it. Hopefully it won't blow up in my face. I don't know what's gonna happen. It'll be kind of fun though. So just to let you guys know, I cut them up. I cut the blanks up, and there was no issues cutting them. An interesting thing, these things are heavy. I mean, these feel like bricks basically. So that's kind of an interesting little thing about this. Like I said, everything cut well. I don't know that they look amazingly awesome right now. I'll give you guys a closer up view of them. But let's see what happens. I think it'll be kind of fun to turn these things up. One other little note, I was actually expecting these to be pretty abrasive. A lot of times, certain materials will just dull a saw blade like right off the bat, or drill bits or something like that. Anything trying to cut it. And realistically, this stuff was not abrasive. I wouldn't say it was abrasive at all. Not more than like just a resin blank. So that's good news. I'm not going to trash my carbide bits or cutters. So let's switch to the overhead view here. See what's happening. So we did a bunch that were all kind of one batch, all the same color. So I got a couple of those. As you can see, I mean, they're not looking super amazing right now. They look kind of funky, but we'll see. So one thing about this, I'm going to say this right off the bat, we are not wet sanding these because I'm pretty sure that will just flat out dissolve the salt. So we're going to have a little bit of a choice type thing. I'm gonna actually do this right now. So I cut up a couple of blanks. We had, like I said, this is one of the ones that was, I think, red, blue, and purple or something like that. What did we do? I got notes. Let me just pull these things out here. We got one that is Barney purple, red metallic, and royal blue. So that's all of these. So I don't think it really makes any difference which one we pick. I just cut up one of those pen blanks. So we got that as an option. And then one of the ones that we did was a mixture of half and half green and red. And so what I ended up doing was we'll either get, I'm only going to have time to turn one of these today. So either red, green, or the mixture. So put in the comments which one you guys want to see turned. I don't think it really matters. One thing I did do, and I'm not entirely certain which one's which now, but I also put some different types of tubes in here. One of them's brass, one of them's silver, one of them's black, and one of them's white. And to be honest, I don't know offhand which one is which. So it'll be kind of a mystery to see. I don't know if it's going to be like see-through or anything, so I thought I'd try a couple different things out. So we have those ones, and then here are some other ones. We did a kind of a mix with that same green and red, but we threw some lime green in the middle. That's pretty cool looking. I guess I can, let me zoom in just a little bit down. There we go. That's a little better. So that's kind of cool. This one is, I don't know. Oh, this is the Beetle Blue one. Beetle Blue eye candy. Again, I don't know that these are looking super amazing right now, but once you put finish on them and everything, sand them up, they may turn out to be cool. And then we got a lime green. And then this one was that one where we put teal powder, mica powder, plus teal colored, like kind of the same color dye, like an opaque dye. So it might be kind of sparkly. I'm not seeing a whole lot of sparkle going on. But again, depends on what happens once you get it all polished up. So let's see here. I'm going to stop real quick and just see what we got on the feedbacks. Yeah, I'm very interested as well to see, Tim, if this thing stays together or not. I'm wearing a face mask today, that's for sure. So we got mix, lots of mixes. So I'm guessing by mix, you're talking this one, right? The purple. This one does look the best, I would say. I am kind of curious about if this creates like a crackle effect when you get it all kind of turned and polished. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but you know. And then as you can see, we got a couple other things going on. So these are blanks that we made previously, and I don't think I ever shared these. So this was the test. We did one batch. This is Amazing Clear Cast. And we did one batch where we pretty much poured it kind of right away. And these were with dyes. And you can see, I gotta be honest, these look pretty darn good. I'm very impressed with Amazing Clear Cast for color separation. It works pretty good. And I'm guessing it's just because it's thicker. However, you know, there's a little bit of bleed going on in there, you know. It's kind of a little bit bleedy. However, the ones that we weighted, I mean, that's definitely separation, you know. So this gives you a good example of the difference between trying to pour something all at once or like right after you mix it and waiting for things to kind of thicken up a little bit, get that warmer temperature closer to the end of the working time. So we got those, and then these were the mica powder ones. And interestingly enough, let's see here. Let's see if we can. Yeah, I'm gonna show you this side just because it shows a little better. So this is the one that we weighted, and again, you can see it's a pretty good separation between the colors. The thing is, I don't know that I poured these about the really like the same exact kind of motions. That can change things as well. And then these ones are the ones that we poured kind of right away. And the interesting thing about these is, you can see that they've bled a little bit. There's just not as much of that separation between the two colors. However, I gotta be honest, I actually like the looks of these better. For this blank, I don't know that this would work for every type of mica powder and all that stuff, but for this one where it's like this blue and green, I mean, these are fabulous. I really like these. So just wanted to kind of share that. And that also, you know, a lot of people ask me, oh, how long should I wait? What's the time and all this stuff? And the thing is, depending on what you're going for, you know, you may want some bleed. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. Like, I got to be honest, I like these better. I like the looks of these. I just think that they're a little bit more flowy, especially since they have kind of this ocean kind of look, seaweed kind of thing going on. It lends itself to a little bit of bleeding together, or, you know, whatever. I don't know how else to put it. However, at the same time, these look fabulous too. I like the looks of these, but I kind of just, these ones catch my eye a little bit better. So we got a couple of things going on there, and these actually, I saw a few of you guys were kind of talking about the mystery boxes, and the mystery boxes so far, we've had 2 rounds. They seem to be working. Everything's working, but I'm not going to release more just yet because I'm not 100% certain. There may be other plans with them. They are coming soon. That is for sure. There will be some more mystery boxes coming soon. I'm just not 100% sure exactly if they're going to be the same exact thing that we've been doing so far. I've been toying around with an idea of kind of connecting it into Patreon instead of just being on my website. Maybe both, I don't know. So, more muted, yeah. Okay, so it looks like we're doing the mix. I'm gonna switch to the intro view so you can see me reading comments. I don't know, it's better than just staring at nothing. Let's see here. Yeah, you can get different types of tubes. So, you know, pen kits come with brass tubes. However, I'm gonna actually pull these out because they're a little, I think, easier to see. So we'll switch to this other overhead view. Now you can just paint your tubes. That's what most people do. So you can get black, white, whatever color you want to paint them. But I get powder coated ones from Turner's Warehouse. The issue with this is you're only going to get, they're only available in certain kit types. You're not going to be able to get, you know, every single pen kit tube size on the market. But for a lot of the popular ones, and this is another reason why I do a lot of Sierras, Cigars, Junior, bolt action. I don't really make a lot of those anymore, but bolt action a lot of times. So I got black. I guess there's another black, but they have white. Turner's Warehouse sells a silver powder coated one. That's kind of cool. But you can also find nickel plated where they're like chrome. So it just depends. I think Turner's Warehouse has all of those, but you can kind of, I don't know where I got all of these things. Most of them are from Turner's Warehouse. So I just wanted to kind of share that with you guys. Let's see here, scrolling down, seeing if there's any other questions or any of that. That's a good question, GeoFits. No, not really. The big thing, the reason why I don't choose to make a block blank, I would choose a round one if I had the option. A lot of times though, what I like to do is just slam stuff into these things. I'm not particularly fond of trying to make a pen blank in a 3/4 inch PVC pipe and then swirl it around. What ends up happening is you get a vertical swirl pattern, and it's honestly it's just hard to pour multiple colors into a 3/4 inch pipe. Now you can put a funnel and there's all kinds of different ways to kind of handle it, but I don't particularly personally like color swirl blanks in pipes. I'm not very good at them, and I don't really like the looks of them necessarily. I like the way that I do them. So for color swirl blanks, it's easier in a trough, and so you end up with square blanks. The other issue is there's certain things where I'm just dumping a bunch of stuff. Like we could have done the salt ones, I guess, technically, especially just a single color. That would have been doable in a pipe. But what I did was, it wasn't actually these ones. I used the, where are they? I used the singles. I just used one of these guys. And it just, I don't know. I just pulled it out because I typically just do that kind of thing. But a lot of times, you know, if you're using like, if you're making like hybrid blanks or doing certain things where you just need to stuff things into a mold, it's easier with a square. So that's the only difference. But if you can get away with it, the round ones save resin, and you don't have to knock the corners off before you start turning and all that kind of stuff. So they have advantages. It looks like everybody's answering that. Sorry. Okay, so let's see here. I don't think. Yeah, I mean, they are kind of expensive, you know, to buy. And that's why, you know, I mean, spray painting them is fine. My biggest problem is, I mean, I'm usually running late, and I'm not like, for me to paint tubes for what I do, I don't make a ton of pens for any, you know, like to sell. So most of when I'm turning stuff, it's just to see how does a blank look type thing is really what's going on. So like, it's more of a last minute thing, like, oh, I got to get these things glued up for tomorrow's, you know, stream or something like that. So it's easier for me just to buy already pre-done ones, and I don't have to worry about anything. Yeah, thanks, Mimi. I appreciate the super chat. That's awesome. All right, so let's get rolling. I'm not going to look at any more questions right now. Let's switch over to the lathe cam. My mouse isn't working. Okay, there we go. It's kind of not focused too well. So I'm just going to look at these two blanks. I'm going to zoom out just a bit because things are a little bit kind of crazy over here. Maybe kind of, oh, I can't really turn that. Let's just get this thing there we go. Maybe like that. Okay, so I'm just going to look at these two blanks. I don't really think there's any difference between these two that I can see. I'm just going to go with this one. I see all three colors going on in there, and it looks homogeneous, let's say. I don't know. I don't even know if that's the right word. So I'm going to do the turning between centers setup. I like doing that better than mandrels. So we're all set up. We got a dead center. This is driving it. We got our TBC bushings from Brian over at TBC Bushings. I saw him in the chat. He makes excellent bushings for any pen kit you ever needed. And then we got a live center that rotates freely. So everything's good to go. And just the short story, the reason I like this better is it's a little bit more accurate. Those mandrels can wobble and do all kinds of stuff, and I've had nothing but problems with them in the past. Possibly user error, but at the same time, this one just works. I don't have to think about it. So the drawback to this is you can only do one at a time. There may be setups where you could do two, but for the most accurate turning and everything, one at a time is kind of how you do the TBC setup. All right, so we got that thing set. I'm gonna get a face mask out. I'm gonna get my glasses on. And I need to get my phone out too, jeez. Nope, I missed a call. That looks like spam. Let's see here, YouTube, my channel. Here we go. There it is. Okay, and I even have a little magnet doohickey so I can see you guys chatting away in the, yeah, the tube colors. Yep. Yeah, TBC bushings, you get them specific for the pen kit. So I have some, last time we were using the cigar style, and there's a whole set of those. But you also, you know, I know a lot of people have a ton of bushings already. They're already set up for, you know, the mandrel style bushings, and that's not a big deal because they do have adapters as well that you can use with your standard bushings. Now you're adding another piece of component in there is going to take you one step away from being as accurate as you could be, but see, this is just standard one. The only difference is they don't have the 60-degree cone in there, so it's not going to hold very well. So these guys go into your standard bushings, have the 60-degree, and then your standard bushing goes into, you know, whatever your pen kit is. So they do have that option available, which is a good one. I recommend if you were, like, let's say that you make a ton of Sierra style pen blanks, go and buy the bushings for Sierras. You know, just spend the money on something that you do a lot. But for those pen kits where, you know, you're turning one, you're just trying out a pen kit, or, you know, you don't really make too many of them, but you already have the bushings, that's when I would just go with the adapters. Don't spend money on bushings that you're not really going to use a lot of the time. Okay, so glasses on, face mask on. Man, I really need to replace this thing. I can't even barely see out of. Oh, that's okay. And turning tools, easy wood tools. They're so easy. Okay. Let me know if the microphone's terrible now. I'm gonna turn my dust collector on. Hold on. Crack that open a little bit. Okay. All right, here we go. Curtis is back. What's up? All right, so here's the moment of truth. Taking it a little easy on these things right now. I'd rather get through it if possible. You can see, look at all that white stuff, mostly salt dust, I think. Huh. Well, look at that. I'd say it's turning quite nicely. Jeremy was asking, is it making it soft? No, it's pretty hard. Let me clarify that a little bit. I wouldn't say that it's harder than the resin, but it's not soft, it's firm. Now, one other thing that could have happened, and it doesn't occur to me that this would be the case, but I have heard other people that do geode, like the coaster geodes. I've seen other people use salt, and they've said, or other things where they're just like casting something in place, not turning it. So slightly different applications, but I've heard people say that salt can kind of absorb the resin a little bit. It doesn't seem spongy to me. That doesn't seem like how it would work necessarily, but who knows? I mean, this stuff, it's turning quite well. You know, almost like, I don't know, like it maybe has absorbed some of that. Tighten it up. Yeah, I was just hogging it off right there, and it's taking a pretty aggressive cut, and I don't think it's gonna blow up. Still don't know if these are gonna be super amazing or not, but I think they'll turn just fine. So, like I said, this is turning pretty well. Just got to get the shape that I want here. so let's zoom you guys in here. Frank with the 5. I appreciate it. I enjoy the experiments myself. I gotta unplug this camera. Hold on real quick, guys. Hold on real quick. I'm gonna crack open the bottom there. There we go. Okay, so I unplugged the camera. I'm gonna get you guys in the front here. I know it's shaky cam time. Hold on. Try and get this thing to have a hold of it there. It's looking okay. I mean, it's not the most amazing thing I've ever seen yet. I got a little bit of work to do on this end. This one's pretty close. Maybe just a little bit of a trim on that side to get it close to the bushing, and just a little bit more shaping work. It's looking okay. I don't really see, I don't think I see any chipping. Maybe a couple little air pit kind of things. So real quick, let's do something real quick here. I'm gonna move you guys back over here. Zoom out just a little bit. What I'm gonna do, okay, so again, there's salt in this, and I'm guessing that wet sanding probably is gonna melt it. So we're not gonna do that, of course. But we should be able to put some CA glue on it. I'm guessing, I don't know. I mean, now that I said that, now I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe not. But I think we'll be able to. So I'm gonna pull out some of the super fast thin, just to kind of douse it a little bit. I'm gonna slow it down. Let's see what that does. I got more to take off, so I'm not really like putting a finish on or anything. Probably should have blown that off a little bit, but I didn't think about it. I was so excited to see how it looks. Ooh, that's not bad. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. You guys seeing that? I'm gonna see if I can zoom in any further. Hold on, camera work here. Doing some camera work. I don't know, I mean, it's not the worst thing on the planet. That looks a lot better than it did. Now I'm seeing there are a few little pits here and there. You can definitely see the tube. So we ended up picking one that was the one that was the brass tube. You can see the gold in there. So I definitely think that you would, bare minimum, you would want to paint the tube. This may be a case where you'd be better off painting the inside of the blank, even. I don't know. And one other thing I want to say also about this is something that might be kind of cool with this setup is if you did, whoa, wrong way. If you literally cast clear, so just dumped, salt, or the ice melt. I think, I don't know that there would be really any difference between ice melt specifically and just like salt, like the salt crystals. But you could just maybe cast that in clear resin, paint the inside of the blank, and I don't know what would happen at that point. I guess technically that may not work. You may want to go one color at least for like areas around the little salt crystals, but then everywhere where you can kind of see through, you would have that color if you painted the inside of the blank. So I don't know. It doesn't look that bad to me. Let's see here. Gaps or air pockets. I don't know what the difference is there. There's little, not air pockets. There's no air pockets. There's like a little like pinholes here and there. Not really gaps. I don't know. Yeah, moisturize your hand. Yeah, true. I don't think it's calcium chloride. It's sodium chloride. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe ice melt that is the difference between the chemistry. But I can already feel my hands are kind of dry. Feels kind of weird. Okay, so let's finish up the turning here. I'm gonna get rid of the face mask because I really don't think it's gonna blow up in my face. If it does, oh well. All right, so back up to full speed. We'll zoom you guys out a little bit. That's a little bit kind of close. Like I said, there's a little bit of a funkiness going on here. It's not even, and just a tiny bit on this side. A little bit of a bump on the left side there. Trying to smooth it out with the square guy. One other thing is it kind of also dries, I don't know, it kind of makes your tool rest a little bit sticky feeling. That's looking pretty darn good, I think, if I do say so myself. So let's slow her down. I'm gonna pull out some 240 grit. I don't know. Now, sanding is gonna be another interesting thing. See if these salt things sand any faster than the resin. I don't know. Got the lathe going around 450. I don't know what. I didn't read the bag on these things. So it's definitely different than table salt. I think one of those is ice melt and another one is like salt for like melt. There's like two different things I was reading on the internet. Because, you know, we can all trust the internet for our information. But I think the potassium is like ice melt and the calcium is the other one or something. I don't know. One thing that I saw was that ice melt will melt ice at a lower temperature. Like one of those, potassium or calcium, I think. That was kind of the difference between just salt for melting stuff and ice melt specifically. I don't know. I just work here. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so I've given that a little bit of a good sanding, I think. Stop it and see what's happening here. So the surface feels, there's no like weird bumps or ridges going on. So I would not say that the salt is sanding any different than the resin. I don't know. Everything seems good to me. So let me look at this real quick. Yeah, that's looking good. So we're gonna move up to 400 grit. If I can find it. There it is. Now another thing that occurs to me, and I don't know let's do an experiment. This may ruin everything, kind of. So I'm thinking water's probably a no-no, but I'm curious about denatured alcohol, which I think is probably in the no-no category. I'm just gonna get a little bit on here. Because I wanna wipe it off. Just checking to see if I feel anything funky going on. That really didn't appear to do anything to it. I didn't put a lot on there, but I think we're safe. Didn't seem to have any effect. So we'll go with our 400 grit now. Let's see. Professor Zach. Professor of I don't know what yet. Do a little bit of 400 grit, and then I'll probably just do like I got like a 500 that kind of acts more like a 600, and then we'll start doing our CA. I don't go up to a super high grit because you're just going to put CA glue on it, and that'll cover up most of your little scratches and things. So there's no reason to. I don't think there's really any reason to go super high with your sanding before you put a CA finish on, in most cases. I definitely wouldn't go over 1,000 grit, but I don't really see the point in really going over too much higher than like 600 or so, 400. You could probably get away with even. So I think I'm going to do a little bit of lengthwise light sanding here. And so all these little white spots, that's a low spot, little kind of a pinhole. So we need to fill those. Can you see those little white speckles? See that? So we definitely need to put a CA finish on. I mean, you need to protect the ice stuff anyway, ice melt, because otherwise it could deteriorate, and it still could, honestly. I mean, even with a finish on, who knows? You know, over a year or longer, 6 months, year, you could end up having no more salt left. I don't know. I'm going to do the alcohol again, since it didn't seem to have an effect other than cleaning off the surface. So maybe what's happening is it is absorbing it. It kind of absorbs some resin, because this isn't a definitive test in by any means, but I mean, that's not really doing anything. Like it's not even rough or anything. I can't tell a difference after applying the alcohol. I'm actually kind of curious if we can get away with wet sanding this. It might be possible, I don't know. Oh. So I have just this little pad thing that's about a 500 grit, but it's I don't know, it kind of sands a little bit lighter than 500 even, I think. I don't know. That's not very true. That's not a very accurate way of putting it, but it's just a very light 500 that I like to go over. Okay. I'm going to give it one more shot of alcohol. I'm going to turn this thing off for now because I don't need it. Licking the blank, no thanks. I don't really want to do that. But that looks, I don't know, it looks kind of cool. Oh, sorry, I had that way zoomed in. But it looks kind of neat. It's not too bad. Let me see if I turn that down just a little bit. Do we get a little bit more ambiance? A little bit less blown out maybe? I mean, it's looking pretty cool. Can't really complain. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to put on, I'm going to do another coat of the thin, super fast thin. I'm starting to get on the I don't know, I might jump on the medium bandwagon. I don't know. I usually don't recommend that people switch up their game plans in the middle. But so the thin is nice because it'll kind of penetrate into any little cracks or anything like that, like deeper. It's not going to fill stuff particularly well, but it will just kind of seep in. So I've just let that go, and then I'm going to let it cure on its own. What I typically do a lot of times, kind of depends, but a lot of times I use the Mercury Thin Flex, and I just put on a ton of coats. Zoom out a little bit with that. Oh, we're just way too zoomed in. Mercury Thin Flex. This I like for the top finish, but I'm kind of thinking I like the idea of the medium flex for trying to fill stuff. You put a little bit on and try and kind of coat it in. I don't know. Let's give that a shot. The hardest part about CA finishes, I think, are filling little gaps, because just putting on, once you have the thing totally flat and perfect, it ain't hard to put on, you know, that's where, at least for me, then I just put on a few coats of this stuff and we're good. Like it's easy to put on. It doesn't create ridges and all that. When you're trying to fill things, sometimes if you got big enough little pits, I'll just pull out a thick, actually, and put that on, and kind of dab it in and do stuff. But let's give this medium flex a shot. I know some people like to put on like a couple coats of medium. People do all kinds of different things. Okay, so that's nice and cured up. So I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna put on like a little dab. Like that, maybe. I don't know if you can see that or not, but and then I'm gonna apply some pressure to that. Give it a little bit of pressure, let it kind of sit there for a sec. And I learned something from a Chad Schimmel video. The flex version of these things, so a lot of people ask me or are worried that I use accelerator with my, you know, when I'm doing a finish, because sometimes accelerators can make things go wrong with CA glues. But the flex versions of these, they're actually meant to be used with this. With the accelerator, and I've always found that I get better results with it that way. But you're actually meant to. So I'm just going to give it a toot toot toot. Let it kind of sit there for a minute. Think about what it's done. Let's look at it. I just like to lightly use the back of my finger. That's looking good. So let's put on like 2 or 3 coats of this medium and see what happens. See if that'll fill it up, fill up those little pinholes. Yeah, another issue is if you glob on a lot of CA finish and you got these bushings here, you're going to get your bushings stuck. And there's ways to deal with that. That's another reason why I typically, if I'm putting on many coats, I'm going to go with thin. Just because it's easier to kind of pop them loose. There's other ways to go. There's these little kind of plastic bushing things that you can put on. I don't particularly like that because they get in the way. When I'm applying the finish, it just doesn't work particularly well for me, so I don't like those things. But we'll see how this goes. if I end up getting them stuck to the bushings, and I can show you how I get them off. It's quite a bit actually, but whatever. The other thing is I do sanding in between coats a lot of times. And so I don't find that I get things super glued on to the bushings because I'm taking off some of that material anyway. All right, so let's do this. I'll give it a little bit of a spray. Let it sit there for a minute. Gluing your towel to the blank? Oh, man. Whose blank was this one? I'm not sure what you're asking. I made it. If that's Petrus, I added like 100. I filled the channel, and it's up on. You can see me making these things. I mean, I don't know how. Like, I didn't measure out how much it was exactly, but in the mold that I used, I just filled up the slot, basically. Whoa, that's pretty close. All right, so I did one of these 5, and I just filled the entire slot with salt and poured resin on top. It worked pretty good. This stuff would just sink to the bottom. So this is a case where if you're going to be making blanks like this, similar, something like this type of a thing, like coffee beans or something like that, you have to have, you got to fill up at least the 3/4 of an inch, like whatever your blank wants to be, whatever you want the blank thickness to be. You need to put 3/4 inch or whatever of the material that you're casting. Otherwise, it's just going to be like a little layer in the bottom. Typically you're not really going to get that stuff to be like suspended evenly in the blank, you know. So I'm going to give this a little bit of sanding here. This feels pretty good. I actually did pretty good. But the other issue with sanding is it'll show me if there's any low spots. I'm going to turn my thing back on just because I don't want to breathe dust. Could wet sand, that would help, but this is a piece of 400 grit. And this will smooth out any, it's a little rough, that medium. I just don't get it on as smooth as the thin flex. Now a couple of other strategies. So if you got a lot of filling to do on a blank like this, a couple strategies. One thing you can do is you can actually wax your bushings, like take it apart before you start doing all this stuff. Put a nice coat of wax, paste wax on your bushings, and that should help a little bit. Keep it from sticking. Looks like we got it, looks like a little bit of a pit right there, but looks like we did a pretty decent job. I think I might call it a day with the medium flex and just move on to the thin. Regardless, if you're putting a CA finish on, the game plan is you need it to be a nice, level, smooth surface. If there's a bunch of low spots, it's going to look kind of funky, and the light's going to just reflect off of it kind of weird. So that's the most important thing, is to try and get this nice and smoothed out. I don't even care if I'm taking off the medium, really, right now. I'm trying to go for a flat surface. We do have a few low spots still, looks like. Perhaps. Let me grab a little needle thing. It's kind of hard to see. Pretty sure that's a pinhole. Yeah. It's a pretty good one. We got a few. So that didn't really work. Wasn't really filling up these holes. One thing I find kind of helps to like fill holes, because here's the problem. I'm using a paper towel which is absorbent, and a lot of times, you know, you can't really use that to trowel your CA glue in, because it's kind of absorbing as you go. So another way to go is actually just use a gloved finger, or a lot of people use like the little baggies for parts on pen kits. Use that as the trowel, because it's not going to absorb any of the material. And like really rub it in. A little bit more on this end. Now this is really going to glue your bushings together. So just watch out. This is a good place where those little plastic things might be a better way to go. Again, because you're not really getting much on your finger. You're just smoothing it out on the blank. So a few different ways of doing things here. Hopefully some of these things you guys might pick up and try and get good results with. That's the whole point. To keep the paper towel from gluing, well, there's a couple things. It really kind of depends on your CA glue. That's another reason I like the working time with this stuff. And your mediums are going to have longer working time. If you're using something like, I would never like apply the super thin to a paper towel and wipe that on, because it's going to cure on you really fast. But what I do to keep my fingers, and I never glue my fingers, I fold it over like 3 times, 3 or 4, and then kind of squish it. And at that point, like, you got to be getting a little bit nuts with your CA glue. Like, it never seeps all the way through. But again, that's using this stuff, and it's a little bit, I don't know, somewhat thicker than some of the thin CAs. All right, so I'm going to stop this. That's looking good. I'm going to do another coat the same way. Now another thing you can do is, I've put a couple coats on at this point. I can take this thing off and just kind of see. I'm pretty sure that these things are kind of glued on at this point. But what I do to pop them loose usually, and it usually works, is I just kind of tap them and they pop right out. Now the problem is it's going to kind of crack a little bit and you're going to have stuff hanging over. So once you do this, you need to clean it off. See if I can get a shot of that. And sometimes you can crack your finish. I mean, this is not, there's a little bit of risk. I don't know if you can see any. There's a piece. It's kind of hard with the, let me get like a darker background on this. There's a little piece like right there, kind of hanging off. All right, so the problem is you got to get rid of that. You don't want to be jamming that back on the bushing, because you can, then you can like peel up the finish. So what I do is, this is the only use of a mandrel that I have. So you grab yourself a hole punch. It fits perfectly on these 7mm mandrel things. Grab some, this is just like 180 grit or 220 or something like that. And then I just hold down on the blank, so it's running on that bar. And then you square it off, get rid of any off-ending material, because that's offensive. Offending. And you're good to go. I also like to double check and just look at my bushings. Now one thing you can do is just drop this into some acetone, and that will clean up your bushings. I'm just going to use my fingernail here, make sure there's nothing hanging out. We're not done yet, so I'm not saying that I'm totally done, but you can do this after a couple coats and just make sure. Now this is adding time, and it's not particularly awesome, but it'll keep you from gluing your bushings super hard onto gluing your tube to the bushings. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of sanding here. Because again, I want to see, did I fill those? Was that good enough? Still got a little bit of a low spot there. I'm just not going to look at it. We'll take a little bit more of this material off. Got a couple of streaks. I want to get it nice and flat, and then I'm going to go with my normal finish and just hide that one little thing under the clip. That's the secret. If you got like one issue, then just put the clip over it when you put the kit together, you know. All right, so let's go. I'm going to go with my thin flex, my normal method. Oh, the camera. That's okay. Nothing much happened. All I did was sand a little bit. I don't know if you guys saw anything else that was going on there. All right. Listening to the dust collector. It is useful. It kind of pulls some of that CA glue fume away from me, but don't really want to listen to it. Phillips here. What's up, man? It actually worked. I'm just applying a finish to it. Seeing what we got. Not the most amazing pen blank I've ever seen. I don't know that everybody needs to go running out, you know, grabbing 50-pound bags of ice melt and making tons of pen blanks, but it certainly isn't bad. It's an interesting look, and I think that the other thing about this is you could maybe, there could be some use cases. I mean, you know, a lot of people use this stuff for making like the geode coasters. So, I mean, you know, obviously you get kind of that look because people make things with that. But, you know, you can kind of get a certain kind of look with this. And it's not bad. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't know that it's the most fabulous pen I've ever made, you know. Kind of cool looking though. Interesting. And again, you definitely don't want to just use a brass tube. You definitely would want to go with a painted one, or you could even paint the inside of the blank, because these salt crystals are just see-through, especially like certain ones, at least the big ones. You can see brass in there, but it's looking, I mean, it's cool, you know. It's definitely not a failure. That's you know, that's the nice thing about this. Wasn't a complete fail. All right, so I got a couple more coats that I'm going to put on. Oh yeah, I know, it's so not much nicer when the loud noises are off. I was just I drilled these. A lot of times, usually I drill on the lathe for pen blanks now, but part of the reason for that was the drill press that I used to have was such a pain. I hated that thing, and it was just wobbled and terrible. Like, it was just the worst drill press on the planet. And but I bought a Nova. They call it a Voyager, I think. Whatever. The Nova, you know, floor standing one. And to be honest, I've gotten so out of using a drill press to drill things that I don't even think about using that thing. And it's brand new. And so I was over there, and I've got a vacuum kind of thing set up, and God, the vacuum was just running, and I was like, but it's great because it cleans everything up for you. But I was sitting there thinking, man, I wonder wonder if there's like a super quiet vacuum that I can buy, because I would totally go for that. The funny thing is the dust collector itself is not particularly loud. It's just that there's so much suction and air movement that the suction in the cone is loud. Although, you know, and I got a few things open. It's crazy. I don't like loud noises. Unless it's like rock and roll, man. Unless it's rock and roll. That's worth listening to. All right, I think that's good. I think we're gonna patch things up here. I'm gonna stop, look at this, make sure everything's, I don't need these gloves anymore. It's looking pretty good. I'm gonna give it a couple seconds here. Let it kind of cure up a little bit more. Yeah, the Nova, I got it a little while ago. I mean, it took like a year. It took like a year. Oh, you're gonna make some ice melt blanks and things? That's cool. Are you a turner, or do you do, you know, like more like the coasters and those types of things where you're just pouring into a mold? It's pretty cool though. Yeah, like I said, it's viable. It works. It turns. I knew that this was probably going to work with resin. I didn't really think that was going to be a problem. Because I've seen other people do this. Like I said, I've seen a couple of videos of geode coasters that people make, and they were pretty cool. Different, I think they were different. I don't think I've seen anyone actually specifically use ice melt. I don't know if that would change anything compared to there's other, we earlier were talking about, there's like potassium chloride versus calcium chloride. I think is maybe the difference between just like a salt. It's still, people buy it like bags of it for melting ice, but they are two different chemicals technically. I mean, I think most people are using salt, just the I don't know what would be termed as salt, which I think is different from the ice melt one. But I mean, shoot, didn't know if it was going to turn though. I'll tell you that. I got to turn this thing back on. I don't want to breathe the dust. The problem is, you know, I can put a mask on, but then I can't talk, number one. And number two, it still doesn't get it out of my shop, you know, out of the air. So basically I'd have to wear a mask the rest of the day in here. Okay, so again, this is 400 grit. And all I'm doing is just making sure that this surface is dead smooth. There's no ridges and stuff. There's a little bit left. I'm going to give it a little bit more time. I'm going pretty light with this. You don't want to take off a ton of finish, you know, CA glue. So that's I'm going to call that good. Just going to blow that off, and then now we can wet sand, okay? I don't know. I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of an experiment, because we got other blanks ready to go. I don't have enough time to do a full other pen, but I think it's definitely worth everybody's time for me to see what water does. Now, here's another thing about this. So I'm going to turn this off again, because the other problem is I feel like I'm yelling at you guys when I turn that thing on. I'm like, I can't hear. Okay, so here's another thing that we're going to do. So we've sealed the top surface now here, but we haven't sealed the ends, and I think that is well worth our time. So again, I'm going to take apart our blank, okay? And you saw it wasn't like glued together that time, but I still want to make sure that there's no offending material. So I'm going to sand the ends again, just to make sure. Hopefully I'm on camera. I think so. Yep. Square those up as best I can. Just make sure that I don't have little CA chunks, shards hanging off. Because the reason that you have to do this is if you try to press your pen parts in here and you got CA kind of hanging off, little bits, you end up, then you crack your finish when you try to assemble it. And that is, I will tell you what, and I've done it, there is nothing more frustrating than getting to the end. The whole thing is totally done, and then you crack the finish putting the kit together. That is enough to, things will be thrown and cuss words will be said for most people. So that's why I always recommend doing that. Clean up the ends of it. But now what we're going to do, and I think what I'm going to do is use the Mercury Flex again. It's just a little bit thicker than the thin stuff, you know. And I'm just going to put a bit on this towel. And what we're going to do is we're just going to try and kind of get a little bit on the ends there to kind of seal that up. You can go, I mean, you could probably put, you know, multiple coats on. And I think that it would be a good idea. So I'm gonna grab my accelerator real quick. We're gonna give that a little bit of a spray on the ends. You need to watch out though now, this next, you know, if I tried to apply more after spraying it, it's probably going to immediately set up. So not a bad idea to kind of wipe it off a little bit, but you're still, you know, there's no way you're going to get all of that accelerator off. So you either need to wait quite a bit of time before doing another coat, or don't use accelerator. A few different ways to go here. Just be aware of that. You might glue some stuff here. Okay, so I'm gonna do one more coat. Hopefully that's getting on there good enough. I don't know. I'm not really inspecting this heavily or anything. Just kind of demonstrating it. I think we'll be okay though. Okay, so we got, I'm just gonna let this sit because I don't want to get it stuck to the bushings now. You know. No, you don't actually, Mike, you don't want a ceiling hung anything for dust because it pulls it up. I had one and Oneida was like, yeah, you don't want that. And it makes perfect sense. It sucks the fine particles up into your face, basically. So if you're gonna do anything, you wanna have that low, an air filter. So I do have air filters and stuff. They're just as loud though. But my system, the way this works is I capture most of it on the tool, and then my system has floor sweeps on the ground that suck the fine dust down. So it works pretty well. It's a pretty good system. That's why I spent way too much money on it. All right, so don't think that's sticky anymore or wet. So I think we're good. So again, I'm just going to double check and make sure that there's no junk kind of hanging off that's going to cause an issue. There is a little bit on here, but I don't really want to have to submerge these in acetone just to clean them up. I don't think it's necessary. I would recommend that you make sure that you do clean off your bushings really well. Another way to go is you could have another set of bushings. I actually do have another set of Sierras. It's a little bit kind of ridiculous, but. Okay, so I'm gonna call that good. We're gonna put everything back together here. And we're gonna do some wet sanding, get this thing polished up and nice looking. I think I got a little bit of glue on the inside there. It's okay. But we've done all the hard work at this point, so everything that's left is, I don't want to call it less important, but it's not as crucial to do the wet sanding part, to have everything all perfect on here. All right, so we got some water. Slow that down a little bit. Do a little bit of wet sanding. A filter that I'm very curious, and I've been meaning to contact this company. I don't typically solicit, like, I work with certain companies that I've been using their tools and products for a long time, like Turner's Warehouse. I always support them, and I have kind of an affiliate program, with them. So like on like the kind of sponsorship or like support side of things, I typically don't reach out to. I'm not typically, at least right now, I'm not looking to get sponsors and all this stuff. And if I did that, it would have to be companies that I fully trust and use their product already. But there's a company that sells a filter. Company's called Axiom, I want to say. Is that right? I think it's Axiom. And I've been meaning to reach out to them because it's a floor standing thing that you can move around and get, station to station, but it's doing exactly what you want. Like I have the jet, air filter, and there's really no good way to put that on the ground. It's just the way it works. It's not particularly meant for that kind of thing. So I'm looking at, eventually I might kind of contact them. The tough thing is I don't want to buy it because to be honest, it's pretty expensive and I don't need it. But I do think that for Turners and for a lot of people, and the other thing about it is they also even have a charcoal filter pack in there or something that you can maybe add on or something like that could actually reduce. I don't know that it would get rid of entirely, but I think it could reduce resin fumes in your shop even. And so I have a lot of questions for them, but I just haven't reached out yet. Be cool if they would send me one to kind of test out and see how it works with stuff for different uses. Yeah, I got a Festool also. I wouldn't call it quiet. Still, it's better than because the one the shop vac I was talking about, that's next to my drill press, that thing's a rigid, and they sell these things that are called mufflers. Yeah, doesn't really muffle a whole lot, but I think it does reduce the sound a little bit, but it's kind of useless. But yeah, my Festool is pretty good. It's quieter, but it's still not. I guess what I'm looking for. So I bought a portable air compressor for if I'm doing demos and I can like drive there. What I don't like to do is demos and then rely on people to have the equipment for me because they never have the right stuff, or I don't know. You're just way better off if you bring everything that you need and you know how to use it and have all the parts and they all work together, So I bought this little compressor that's a Cobalt from Lowe's, and it was branded as a quiet air compressor, and it is quiet. I mean, you can't even barely hear it's running when it's on. So like that kind of idea where like the vacuum's on but like nobody can hear it kind of thing. Like you could easily talk over it. That's what I'm looking for. All right, so we got up to, these are the Zona papers. You can get these at Turner's Warehouse. They have the sets. I only use the two bottom ones, the green and the gray. And this is somewhere in the neighborhood of $7.50, I think, $7.50 grit. And then this one's like $11.50. So that's what I do. Two steps of kind of polishing, and then I go for like at this point I would either go to the Tripoli buffing wheel, or now I've been using that Magic Juice, and that stuff works pretty darn well. One thing that would be interesting to try out that I haven't really done yet, the problem is I don't like the idea of having to go to the buffing wheels and then come back and do something else. But another way to go is if you already have the buffing wheels, I think that what I found was the Magic Juice got a better finish shine. All right, so now if you already have buffing wheels and you're not really like, oh, I need to go buy something else now, or you don't want to switch the whole thing. You like the buffing wheel method, but you're maybe looking for just a little bit higher, gloss kind of thing. I think that a good way to go would just be using like a car polish or plastic polish or something that's a very fine kind of finish polish grit after your buffing wheels, and then that'll give you that kind of finish shine, the same exact thing as doing 6 steps of Magic Juice. my thing is I like the magic juice because you can just leave it there. I don't have to take it off and do anything else. You know, you just leave it there, put some polish on and go to town. It's a pretty easy method with the magic juice. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, the Powermatic one, I've seen that one too, but that's a box fan that costs $700. The Axiom one it's a little bit different than that. It's still in the same price range, I would say, but I'm sorry, I cannot. You could just stick a filter on a box fan, and that would do pretty darn well. If you get a good enough, rating on that filter, that you can DIY it. I don't really want to. I don't want to take the time to do all that stuff, but the Powermatic one is just ridiculous. I'm a fan of Powermatic too. I got a joiner. I almost bought the bandsaw, or not bandsaw, the drill press. Honestly, I was debating whether to buy a Powermatic table saw, but I like the saw stop better, obviously, because it's a little safer. It has the safety stuff. All right, so here's step one. I'm gonna get the speed going. I'm finding, like, I don't know, somewhere around 1700 is a pretty good speed. So I slow it down to kind of apply it, get it going, and then turn it back on. Just keep going until everything's nice and smooth. And kind of clean it off. Man, looking good already. Let's stop it. Let's see what we got. But yeah, the box fan's not a bad way to go. And that Axiom thing, it's tough because it's not cheap. But I was impressed. I mean, that looks good right there with step one. Wow. This isn't too bad. I wish this wasn't the brass tube one. I guess it's good because we picked the one that's probably going to look terrible. I would imagine all the other ones, because for anybody that didn't see the beginning of this, we had four to choose from, and we picked the multicolored one, and then there was two of those blanks. I want to say that the other, I don't know, it might be a black one. So I had three that we could pick from, and there's a white one in, I don't know which one's which, I didn't write it down. There's a white, a black, and a chrome tube, and then we ended up, and I didn't know which one was which, but we picked the brass tube, and it doesn't look good. Being able to see the brass through. So there's that. But I think any of the other ones would probably look decent. All right, step two. Dr. Kirk's polish. I don't know. It's tough. You just can't try everything. I just don't have enough time. A lot of, for the turning things, it's pretty tough. It was actually hard for me to even try this magic juice stuff. It took me forever. I bought it and then didn't even try it for months because I'm like, I don't know. I just want to get this done. Whenever I would be on the lathe. I got to get something done. I'm going to go with what I know. But I was very, very pleased. I honestly, when we tried this stuff on this live stream, I was like, I don't think this is going to work because I don't like any of the other pastes that are out there typically. But most of those I don't use for pen blanks. They were for other things. Honestly, it's probably very comparable. There's other, especially for pens. There's actually, I would say, probably 3 or 4 polish set things out there. And to be honest, they all are probably made with the same stuff. I don't know. All I know is this stuff works pretty well, and I would imagine any of them do. You know, the key is you got to get all your scratches out. You got to get it to a certain, you know, polish, sanding level, grit level. As long as you do that, then any of these things are going to work fabulous. You know, all you're doing is just getting it shinier and shinier at that point. But I mean, I'm already taking it up to almost 1200 grit. So, you know, honestly, you could probably get away with less than 6 steps even with certain different types of polishes. Because, you know, in the car industry and all that stuff, there's lots of polishes out there that could maybe end up skipping a couple of these steps. Possibly. Yeah, I know. It's called magic juice. This stuff is amazing. What was the other one called? Dr. Kirk's. Yeah, that's just not really. It's not as impressive, you know. Yeah, I'm using my Dr. Kirk's magic juice. People are like, what? What's that? Marketing. This thing is looking really shiny, I'll tell you that right now. So we're on our last step here, guys. Number 6. All right, Gene, have a good one. I'm looking forward to seeing some of those pen blanks and handle blanks turned. Let me know when you do. I can't wait to see it. Step 6. And to be honest, I don't know how abrasive this paper towel stuff is. I mean, it has some abrasion level. And so I'm actually kind of curious. Next time I see Michael Harding, he's the one that makes this magic juice stuff, I'm going to ask him about that. Is it better to use something a little bit different than paper towels with these? I don't know if they recommend anything else. Okay, let's see what we got. What do you guys think? Is it going to look good? We're doing good on time. Wow. Yeah. I gotta be honest, guys. Okay, so now that it's like polished, I mean, that's pretty impressive. I'm still not sure that everybody needs to go run out and make 50,000 of these things and sell them. But I mean, if you want to just have a little bit of fun one day, it looks pretty good. Get rid of the brass tube, and I think this would have been even better, way better. Luckily, you know, from I'm about, you know, I don't know, a couple feet away. I'm not like up, you know, super close inspecting this with a magnifying glass. It doesn't look that bad with the brass. Like, it's not horrible. The problem is I know what that is and I don't like it, you know. But it really doesn't even look that bad. Everything else looks pretty good. This is pretty cool. Huh. Wow. Okay. Let's do it. Scoot you guys over here. I'm going to try something new today. Let's see. Where is that? Oh, shoot. I want to try something new for assembly. It's actually not new. I just wanted to share it because it might be something that some people might be interested in. I don't like this system personally. That's why I never use it, but it has its use. Oh, there they are. Okay. It has its uses. Okay, so we're going to do something different. If you haven't seen it before, they sell these things where you can use your lathe as a pen press. And I bought these for, again, if I'm doing demos or something like that, chances are they're not going to have a pen press. So I bought these little things so that I could, you know, if I'm turning a pen, at least I know that I got the lathe and I basically have a pen press. So let's try it out. It works fine. I like other methods better, usually, but all you got to do is you're going to use your, you know, pop all your stuff out, and then they just pop into the Morse tapers. Actually, I'm going to leave this stuff out because I'm going to use it again. Get out of there. We're gonna chuck up the. We're gonna kind of quickly turn round the other blank, and then apply some water to it and see see what happens. All right, so this one's flat, so it goes in the tailstock. This one's got a little. I guess it really doesn't matter, but which one goes where? My thinking is I'm gonna put the nib that way. I need a pen kit. That would help. So that's a Sierra kit, or Sierra, Sierra tube. What do we got here? What is that? Ooh, a little too fancy for that, I think. Let's go with. All right, we're just gonna go with, I think I got a chrome one. Yeah, there we go. I think chrome's gonna look good. So Sierras are great because they're super simple for anybody that's not, or kind of new to pen turning or doesn't really know what pen turning, what's going on. I'm gonna put this back down so I can kind of put my components down there. We're gonna kind of tilt this down. I'll kind of lay everything. What I do is I like to lay everything out. These ones are super simple, so really you're probably not gonna get kind of messed up with it. There's literally only one part that you're gonna actually even press, and that's the clip part. All right, so, but typically for most pen kits, I'm gonna kind of lay out all the parts and make sure that I got everything lined up and going where it's supposed to go. Now for the Sierra, how far away are you guys? Let me get a little bit. I got to remember to move it when I'm when I'm putting it together. But for the Sierra kits, all you got to do, there's a little thing covering the ball point. That's fine. I'm going to rip that off. Pop that in. Where's my spring? Where's the spring? Ah, there it is. It was in the bag. Don't lose your spring. Spring goes on right there. And then all you're going to do is you're going to drop in that thing. There we go. Screw this together and basically set it aside because you can press that in by hand. All right, so the only thing we got to do is we're going to press this part in somewhere. All right, so what I'm going to do is I need to look, I want to cover up. I got a little bit of a, remember I told you, there's a little pinhole thing. I'm covering that up. Okay, so that's where the clip's going. I'm just going to get that ready. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit, or just change the angle, I guess. And let me get this stuff out of the way now. Get my tailstock closer. And these things are plastic, so you don't really have to worry about it marring anything. So that's nice. Boom. I mean, it doesn't really get much easier than that. And then you don't, again, that's another thing where you don't have to leave the lathe to get the thing done, And then you just press that together and it twists, boom, boom. What do you guys think? It's kind of shiny. Get it so it's not shining back at us. Ooh, there we go. I mean, it's pretty cool, actually. I take it back. This is cooler than when I was like, yeah, it's okay. This is actually pretty cool looking. I don't know. I'm digging it. What do you guys think? I'll give you guys a little bit better view. Oh, it's looking pretty. I'm watching. This is fun. You can watch me watching the stream. All right, so what we're gonna do now, let's see. I'm gonna stop and see what you guys are saying. Take one of the turn blanks, soak it in water. Oh, that would be interesting. I mean, I guess I don't really need to turn it, but I think we're going to turn the other half of this blank. Yeah, I know where the clip's going. Oh, you sent pics to Patreon. Sweet. Awesome. I think Gene's probably gone, but Kevin's here. What's up? Yeah, I can't make it to the Mid-Atlantic? Can't make it out this year. Okay, so I think that everybody's good to go. So I'm going to take these guys out. Hopefully they'll come out. Yeah, just barely. Didn't know if they're kind of short, so I wasn't sure if it went far enough on this lathe. Pop these guys out. These things work pretty good, like I said. There's certain things, especially on like a difficult, if it's not wanting to go in, this may not be the most awesome thing. And I don't love horizontal really for pressing. I prefer vertical, but those things are pretty handy and they're cheap. I think I got them maybe at like Craft Supplies or somewhere like that. Not too expensive. Definitely way less expensive than pen presses. Those things are super expensive. Okay, so let's go with let's go with this one, because if this doesn't work and it starts melting, we already got at least one of these style out, made. I don't know. So I wish I had like a pole. Excuse me. Throat got dry. I got potassium chloride in my throat. I wish I could quickly throw a pole up. What do you guys think? Do you think this is gonna melt, or do you think it's not? It's just like impervious at this point. I only have one flaw to cover. No, there's a few of them, but that was the definite one that I was like, I'm not spending more time filling this. I choose this flaw to cover up. Okay, so let's do a little bit more turning. I want to hear what you guys think though. Is this gonna be terrible, or I want to get it turned first and then do it, like rounded. Okay, so we're turning the dust collector back on. Maybe there it goes, and we're gonna do just quickly get this rounded up, and we're gonna wet sand it basically. I just want to kind of see how that works. I think it's less, it may dissolve if you just stuck it in a bucket of water. They may just dissolve. Now the problem is, I don't know if there's enough resin for it to actually stay intact, basically. I think it may just kind of collapse, but that would be a totally different thing. What I want to see though is, can you wet sand this stuff without it melting on you, basically? No, it's not covered in CA. I'm asking if this one's gonna melt. We're gonna wet sand it. Okay, so we are around. We got a pretty big chunk right there that came out. I don't know if it actually came out, but you're gonna get some little air pits and things. I was pretty certain about that. So just expect you're gonna have a few little things to fill. That one's a pretty big one though. All right, so let's get our wet sanding apparatuses out. Get that off real good. Just make sure that that's good. Turn the dust collector. And again, wet sanding is a good idea if you don't want to sit and listen to the dust collector all day. You don't really need to turn the dust collector on if you're wet sanding because it's going to trap all that dust. One of these days I will listen to my own advice and wet sand more, more stuff. All right, so let's see how smooth. Hold on real quick. I'm going to try and get this surface a little bit smoother. I'm trying to, you know, approximate like what it would actually be like when you're sanding. So let me try and get this surface a little bit smoother. There's some pretty big like tool mark ridges and stuff going on. I didn't really think about it. How closer? Okay, that's good. Okay. Let's start with the 240 grit again. Still some tool marks. I didn't do a fabulous job there flattening it, but that's okay. Flatter than it was, I think. Wet sand salt? That's the question. I don't know. Alcohol, denatured alcohol did nothing to it. That's why I'm curious now, because I mean, there was no change. Now, maybe if you just, you know, soaked it in alcohol or water. Oh, feeling kind of funky. I'm just kind of curious to see, how does this go? Ah, Jason, you just tuned in. Yeah. We already did one. We got through the whole thing. Everything was great. We put a CA finish on and everything was dandy. But the whole time I was like, you don't want to wet sand these because they're going to melt. Probably. But I'm not even entirely sure, you know. And the reason, I mean, water obviously dissolves salt. This is slightly different than normal salt. It's like I didn't look at the bag. It's like actually, I didn't have the bag anymore. That's why. It's like a potassium chloride or what was the other one? Something else chloride. So it's a little bit different than table salt anyway. But the thing is, it could absorb some of the resin because this thing turned beautifully. And I mean, I don't know how turning potassium chloride is, if you just had a big chunk of it, if it would turn wonderfully or not. But I was expecting it to be a little bit more brittle, something, you know, but it didn't feel any different than the resin to me. So that's why I was kind of curious about this, because if it has absorbed the resin, then it doesn't matter. It's most likely not really gonna dissolve. I don't know. Let's see what we got here. So, oh yeah, that is definitely dissolving, guys. That's why we did the test. Definitely dissolving. I don't know if I can get how close I can get in here. It's like, it's chunky. Definitely dissolving. All right, so now we're gonna do Resin Dragon's idea. And I'm okay. Like I said, that's why I picked this one, because we already got one of this type of blank that worked, but you can see it's like falling apart. So we're gonna dunk it in water Did you see what I just did there? No, because it wasn't on camera. We're going to dunk it in water and see what ends up happening. And we may be able to recast it. That was a really cool idea. I like that. So there you have it, guys. Ice melt. You better put a CA finish on it or else it's going to be gone. And I mean, this begs the question, like, you know, if you lived in a really humid area, I mean, is this going to work? You know, is it going to stay? I mean, I don't know. You know. So let's go to this camera view. So here, for anybody that's just joining the fun, let's see if I can get a good angle on this. Oh, there we go. There we go. Kind of. I mean, it looks really cool, I think. Now again, you can see the tube in some spots. But, you know, if you hold it just, I mean, if you're not like seriously microscoping it, you know, putting it under a microscope, you just hold this pen up, I mean, it looks pretty darn cool. So it's viable. But, you know, if you live in a super humid area, is that stuff going to eventually just melt anyway? I don't know. So I don't live in a humid area, but I'm going to keep an eye on this. We sealed the ends a little bit. I could have done that better. You know, you could even do that before you start turning. Try and kind of seal those ends of the blank and really get it covered up with CA glue. And then obviously we covered the top, but I don't know that it's like 100% impermeable to moisture or anything like that. I think it kind of is, but I don't know for sure. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how this holds up, you know, like over the long term. Is there going to be problems with this kind of thing? But either way, it turns great and it looks good. So I'm happy with it. Wow. Seal it back up with clear. Burning question of the day answered. Yeah. So one other thing that I wanted to mention, guys, if you're not on the email newsletter list, we mentioned it. So we turned this pen not too long ago with the silver 3D printed honeycomb, and I have a bunch of blanks, like a batch of blanks up on my website now. If you want to grab one of those, I'm actually kind of curious to see, you know, get feedback from people as well on that. So it'll be kind of cool to see how that goes. But if you want to pick one up, they are available on the website. Let me switch back to the intro. And my mouse doesn't work. Let me switch to the info, this one. So there's a link to those. They're also down in the show notes for anybody that's watching later on. Those things are up, and I know that I haven't gotten a resin printing video up yet. I might try to shoot one today, kind of quick. I have an idea for something to kind of cover, but it has been kind of like, it's one of those things where when I jump into something, like I dive in and it takes a little bit of time. That's one of the drawbacks, you know, for I know a lot of people have said that they're kind of maybe interested in getting one of these resin printers. It's time consuming. In reality, it's not going to be any easier than any other, like a filament 3D printer. It's probably going to be, could be possibly more time maybe than those, or like a CNC or laser or any of those types of things. Like, you got to learn how the thing works, and it takes time to get things going. So it's been kind of a challenge, and I'll have lots of information to share with everybody once I kind of get the problem is I haven't like figured out a lot of things, so putting a video together where I don't even know what I'm doing, I don't think is very helpful. I think I'd rather get some answers than share with you guys. But I have some initial thoughts, and I think that's what I'm going to try to maybe do today. I don't know, I might have to do it this weekend. But the other thing that I wanted to mention also, Friday, the Patreon hangout we're going to be doing, I'm going to walk you through stabilizing wood with cactus juice stabilizing resin. And so I'll just kind of take you through, give you all the tips, all the ways, you know, what I do when I'm stabilizing wood, basically, and give you guys some tips. So if you're not a patron and want to grab a hold of that awesomeness, no, if you want to join the Patreon family, you can at patreon.com/nvwoodworks. It's still, I haven't changed the link yet. It's still NV Woodworks, but There's links down in the show notes. And so that'll get you access to the extra monthly hangouts, and you get to support the show as well, and other random little extra content things too. So, but the first Friday of the month we do that, just a patron only hangout. That's going to be on Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Won't be late to that one, I promise. And so we'll do a little bit of a like wood stabilizing 101. It should be pretty fun, I think. I don't think that I've done that yet on Patreon. And my videos, although most of the information is pretty accurate, they were made when I like the first year that I was doing wood stabilizing. So there's some things that I've changed, let's say. Most of them have to do with how long some of these processes go. But if you're looking to get information, I do have a playlist if you don't want to do the Patreon thing. I do have a playlist that shows you the basics, and also wood drawing is kind of a separate video. Between those two, the playlist and the wood drawing, that's most of what you need to know. But like I said, I'll kind of cover all the other things and the changes that I've made on Friday, so it should be pretty cool. Purple and silver honeycomb. Yeah, these things, I'm pretty happy with these. So I decided just to make one. It's up in the limited editions section on my website. Those are ones that I haven't committed fully to keeping this in inventory and restocking it. So that's where like limited editions, that's something where I make a batch, let's see how this goes, or I'm only doing one batch type thing. So it's under that. So it should be pretty cool. So I hope to see all the patrons on Friday come out, and don't forget, you guys, the second half of that hangout is just Q&A, like any questions you guys have. So think of questions to bring to the first Friday hangout, and I can't wait to see you guys. So big thank you to Mamie and Frank for hooking it up with the super chats today. I appreciate the support. And yeah, so we'll kind of keep an eye on this blank and all this stuff. Most likely I'll be sending out, man, these, I mean, they're just heavy and they're cold. It's really kind of crazy how these turned out. Pretty cool though. So probably be sending a couple of those guys out in the mystery boxes this month. And then the mystery boxes should be opening up to more people than just the testers, like within a month. I would say somewhere around there. I need to figure out exactly how I'm going to do those things, but I'm super stoked about it because we make blanks. And as long as they work, they turn out okay. We'll put those in the mystery boxes, and then I'm going to add in some secret ones that nobody knows about, and it should be kind of fun. So be looking for those things at a little subscription-based deal where you get a box. That should be coming pretty soon. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you all joining the fun tonight. Hopefully you had a good time, learned something maybe, and I think that's about it. So I will see you guys next Wednesday. Let me think for 1 second. One of these days I need to do like a planning retreat, so it'll be tentative next week. Because the sooner I get that done, the more we can get things going. I haven't done one this year yet. Maybe doing a retreat next week, a little business retreat type thing. So I will keep you guys in the know though. If I definitely decide to do the retreat, I got to get like a reservation. I'm going to go to a hotel and focus on this stuff for like 2 or 3 days. So I'll let you guys know what's going on though. So otherwise, just assume that we're going to be back here next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time and doing something, probably a little bit of resin casting. So anyway, guys, hope you have a great night, and I will see you guys on the next stream.